I'm here with NDP leader Carla Beck for a year-end interview. I'll start by asking you, what's your highlight of the year?
You know, there have been a lot of things that have happened this year, a lot of things that stand out, but maybe overall the number one thing has been watching this team, the official opposition, our MLAs, really connect with people across this province and really come into their own in terms of both holding the government to account, but also starting to bring forward ideas on the things that matter most to people in this province, bringing forward legislation on making our hospitals safer, a fair wages bill that we've seen in the legislature around the wildfires and on rent control. Watching this team take on the work and how hard they're working and how clearly they're working on behalf of the people of this province has maybe been overall the most gratifying thing about the last year.
It's a much larger caucus for you now. You have brought on obviously a lot of people who maybe don't have political experience before this. Has it been a challenge to kind of get people into the flow of what it is to be a politician in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, after the election, we doubled our seats and, you know, came within 1,600 votes of winning government. And more than half of our MLAs coming into the legislature a year ago, just over a year ago, were brand new. So we approach that as both being an incredible opportunity, of course, with more numbers, but also a bit of a risk if we didn't make sure that we all got off on the right start. So we put a lot of focus on making sure that people had what they needed to be successful in this role. And you know, this has been a team that has just continued to outpace expectations at every turn. And I'm obviously biased as the leader, but I've heard that from people right across this province. They see how hard this team is working. They see how sharp they are, how well they know their files, how many ideas they're bringing forward, even just 1 year past an election. And you know, people are telling me this looks like a government in waiting, and you know, I tend to agree with them. It's a great team.
Your results in the election was obviously something that the NDP hasn't experienced in a while. It was a major improvement from previous elections. How do you take that next step and form government? Obviously, that's a goal for you. So what do you think is the path towards doing that?
Yeah, you know, I remember this so clearly on election night, promising people in that room that night that we weren't going to stop, that we understood that there was so much change that needed to happen in this province. So many people that were counting on it, you know, people looking for a doctor, people wanting to make sure that their kids have supports in schools, who are struggling with the cost of living, that we weren't going to stop, not miss a beat, not miss a day, and continue to do that work, which is really what we've done. You know, a lot of times people are asking, why does it seem like you are in election mode still, and we're just a year past an election? It's because we believe in this province. We believe that people in this province deserve so much better than what they're getting right now after 18 years of the Sask Party. And we understand that we have a lot of ground to cover, a lot of trust to build in some areas, and a lot of work to do. We're going to continue because we do believe that there's an incredible amount of opportunity out there, but opportunity that is not being realized because we have a government that frankly has quit trying and seems to be out of ideas. We've got less than 3 years to show people right across this province that better is possible, and this is the team to deliver better for people in this province.
The Saskatchewan NDP, they did well in the cities, and especially Regina, you know, Saskatoon, they did well in the north, but a lot of the focus for the Saskatchewan Party at their convention was how do we win back the cities? I guess for the NDP, I guess the question is how do you win rural Saskatchewan? How do you convince them to support the NDP? Yeah. What's the path towards that? Yeah,
so in the last election, certainly, if you look at a map of the province, you know, we hold the cities and the northern half of the province. What that map doesn't show is that we saw incredible gains in communities like Yorkton, where we saw a 32% swing in the vote towards us. We saw gains in almost every constituency outside of the cities in the last election. How we did that, a lot of hard work, meeting people where they're at, both literally going out to them, not waiting for people to come to Regina to talk to us, and figuratively. And maybe this is the most important thing. We are talking about the issues that are most important to Saskatchewan people. We understand them when they tell us that they're struggling like they never have before when it comes to paying their bills, the cost of living. More people in this province than any other province. We understand the healthcare workers and those who are seeking healthcare in the province, that this system is broken, and we have a government that, instead of trying to fix it, is running our provincial health authority like it's an arm of the Premier's office. That can't stand in the birthplace of Medicare. We can do better than this. So connecting with people, hard work, and being dogged in bringing people's voices forward, both in this legislature, but telling those stories. And the more we do that, the more we hear from other people that, I'm ready for change, and I like what you guys are doing.
Why do you think the appeal of the NDP has kind of shifted, even in the rural areas that you were mentioning, those constituencies that have seen a swing towards the NDP, even if the NDP didn't pick up that seat? Why do you think there is that appeal, that shift towards your party?
Mm-hmm. One of the things, and I just heard this recently from someone, you guys keep showing up. And, I've been voting a different way for a number of years, but I feel like the current government, after 18 years, has stopped listening to us. And, I wasn't sure when I first saw you show up, or your MLAs show up in my community, but you kept showing up, and you kept talking about the things that are important to people here, and you kept bringing our voices forward. And, that is something that I hear in that community, but I hear in communities right across this province. A lot of politics, there's a lot of detail, there's a lot that's complicated, but some things aren't. Talk about the things that are important to people, listen to them, and bring forward solutions to the things that matter most to them. This is what our team has been focused on. That's what I've been focused on as the leader. And I think there are a lot of people who are saying, I almost voted your way last time. This time I'm going to vote for change, for a better future for this province in the next election. And we're going to continue to build that trust and put forward our ideas, because I do believe that there's an incredible amount of opportunity out there. We've got the hardest working people that I've seen across this country, people who are solution focused, who care about their neighbors. We have a history of innovating and solving problems in this province. Right now, unfortunately, we have a government that would rather talk about things or wave around their so-called plans instead of digging in and fixing the issues. That's what we're focused on, and I think people are seeing that, and they're trusting that this is the team to deliver the change they want to see.
I hear you saying, you're going to where people are at, you're elevating their voices. What are some of the topics that you think are a focus for the NDP that are wins for them when you try and communicate what your party's focus is?
Yeah, so this year there's been a lot. I think that maybe if we were sitting here in the same place last year, we wouldn't have foreseen, the tariffs and the extent of the wildfires. But a lot of the issues, frankly, have been the same going back years. Number one, the number of people who are struggling in this province. The amount of working people who have never struggled in their life, who are finding themselves putting their groceries on their credit cards or dipping into their savings just to pay for the basics, is on a scale in this province that, frankly, we're not seeing in other provinces. That's a number one issue. Renters, for sure. Young people and seniors, but also working people who have seen 41 months of rent increases. That's why we brought forward our rent control bill, to curb some of those out of control rent increases that are forcing people, having people worry that they're going to lose their housing, and certainly keeping them from being able to afford their other bills and going further and further in debt. Healthcare is a huge one. On any given day in this province, we've got a dozen or more emergency rooms or services that are closed. And we have a government that seems content with the status quo in this province. It's a dangerous situation when you have 13, as was the case one day earlier this year, 13 emergency rooms closed, often without notice. The amount of people without a family doctor in our province, the wait lists for surgeries, but also for emergency rooms is really causing many people to feel like we have a system that is broken and a government that isn't listening to solutions. That's why we launched our Your Care, Your Say healthcare consultations. We'll, in the new year, see the initial reporting back on that. But as I said, people know where the problems are, but they have been desperately asking for the government to listen to the solutions, and they do have them. And that's exactly what we're doing. So those are just, those are two of the top issues that we're hearing from people, but the list goes on. Childcare, which also is important for ensuring our economy is running well, and being able to ensure that people can access that $10 a day childcare and actually reduce their bills and be able to afford to go to work. Some of this is incredibly practical. People, you don't have to go very far in this province. Like, sit down and have a coffee almost anywhere. The top issues are pretty much the same: healthcare, the cost of living, and concerns about the economy, which we're starting to hear creep in. I know recently we found that for the first time since 2006, almost 20 years, we've actually seen a net decrease of people in Saskatchewan, 600-person decrease in this province. Again, something that hasn't happened since 2006. People feel it, but now we're starting to see it in the numbers. And I want to see a province where my kids, or kids right across this province, see a bright future for themselves, where they have opportunities, where they have strong communities, where they can get health care, where they can get the schooling that they deserve. Again, those are some of the challenges, but also some of the change that people are looking for, and that's what we're building towards the next election.
You mentioned the private members' bill around rent control. Mm-hmm. Some of the, I think, strategy for this sitting from the NDP was to introduce a number of private members' mm-hmm. bills. Is that a conscious choice? Is that part of the plan going forward? I ask that mostly because the government when the government rejects those private members' bills, they don't really go anywhere. So mm-hmm. I guess, is that a choice?
It is. And we're not. The bills that we've been bringing forward have been built with, in most cases, a whole year of consultation. I know on the rent control bill, for example, meeting with people across the province. Builders, landlords, as well as renters. And it was a very practical bill. A lot of the feedback that was taken in was incorporated into that bill. And frankly, I don't see a better solution from this government that has let rents go out of control in this province for 41 consecutive months, pricing people out of the market, pricing people out of their ability to pay their bills. It is a deliberate strategy, I would say. Not to look too much in the rearview mirror, but one of the things that I understand about where people were at after the last election, they certainly know that there are problems. A lot of people not very happy with this government, but that they want to see what we are proposing. And we haven't waited to do that. Again, we're 1 year past an election, 3 years out from an election. You will continue to see the Saskatchewan NDP listen to people in this province, do the work consulting with those who are most impacted, something this government has failed to do for years, and bring forward really common sense, practical solutions. Now, the government can choose to take our advice or not. I'm interested in bringing forward those solutions for people in this province because they, in many cases, are desperately, desperately waiting for them.
A topic during this sitting, and the Saskatchewan Party has attempted to highlight this, was your absence during this sitting. I know that you obviously were traveling and you were sick for a little bit of it, but
Yeah.
I guess for you, do you see it as a problem being absent from a sitting as much as you were this sitting?
Yeah. So, being absent from the assembly and working are two different things. I'd happily compare calendars with the Premier. If I have an opportunity to go tour an exciting new mine in northern Saskatchewan, I'm going to do that. If I have the opportunity to go out and listen to healthcare workers in Beardy's Okomasis when I'm invited, I'm going to do that. This is a government, frankly, that should do more of that. They should do more of meeting people where they're at, traveling around the province. And, I'm not going to apologize for listening to people, for doing the work of building that trust with people in this province, but also bringing their voices forward. I understand that, this is something that the Premier has tried to make an issue of. I guess he is, feeling frustrated that we are doing such a good job of bringing people's voices forward to the legislature. And I'm sorry to say that if the Premier is frustrated by that, he better get a good rest over Christmas, because he's really not going to enjoy 2026, because we're going to continue to do that.
The Premier has said, he I guess when you are not in the legislature and you are going out and listening to these communities that do want to speak with you, I mean, you are the face of the NDP. I guess, is it a balancing act between listening and then being here? Because I think the Sask Party are going to use it as a tool to comment on your commitment to the job.
Yeah.
How do you balance the two?
Well, it's funny, other than the Premier, who's talking about this, the number one thing that I'm hearing from people is how much outreach this team has been doing, how much they appreciate that we've been in their community, that we've been willing to come out and actually see where their challenges are and talk to them about where the solutions are. There is a balance, and certainly at the beginning of the session, I said that I would be in the House about half of the time and be outside of the House the other half, which we would have been almost exactly, except that I had the unfortunate luck to get the flu bug right at the last week, and chose to stay home. Well, first of all, it wasn't much of a choice, really. Anyone who's had it will understand. But also to keep those around us safe. We've got some young parents in our caucus, and it felt like the responsible thing to do. In my absence, I have an incredible team who has not wasted a day. I think that even the ministers on the other side will acknowledge they have not let up on this government at all. The questions, the concerns continue to be asked. We continue to bring legislation forward, and we're going to continue doing that. This government's had 18 years to answer questions, to take those concerns seriously. They haven't done it. We're going to continue to make those connections with people in this province and make sure that everyone in this province gets the chance to meet this team, to meet me as the leader. And, as I said, if the Premier doesn't like us bringing those voices forward, he's going to have a tough new year.
I wanted to ask about it. You have repeatedly highlighted that the Sask Party has been in government for 18 years. One of the refrains we've heard from the government in question period and in the legislature and in the House has been to highlight the decisions of past NDP governments. With the government of the Sask Party being in power for 18 years, do you feel like that's a fair criticism when you weren't in the legislature at that time? Yeah.
Well, I was in high school when the NDP came into government the last time in this province. And I'm not one of the youngest ones on our team. We have a whole group of MLAs who were in elementary school when that happened. I think, and we've heard this even from former ministers and MLAs from the government side, that people are getting tired of those lines. Right now in this province, there are too many people who don't have access to a family doctor, who are unsure that if they have an accident on the farm, or their kid gets a broken arm or broken leg when they're playing hockey, they don't know which emergency room to go to. We have 1,300 parents at least in this province who are being called to get their children from school because we cannot support them in schools. These are real today problems that I think people are far more focused on than lines that frankly should have been retired a long time ago on the other side. That's what I'm hearing from people. There's only so much willingness to keep looking backwards. As I told the Premier before, you can't fix the problems that need fixing in this province when you're looking through the rearview mirror. We need to look forward. We need to build for that future in this province. Again, there's incredible opportunity here. It is shameful that this government has wasted the opportunity that we have in this province that has driven us from first place to last place in healthcare, from first place to last place in education. They have had every opportunity and they have blown it. And they've managed to put us $40 billion in debt while they've done it. People deserve better than this. We can have better than this. We have a history of innovating, of tackling problems on front after front, but we're not going to do it. I think that's abundantly clear now with a government that is as tired and out of touch as the one that we have now. That's why we're working so hard.
Scott Moe has told me he is committed to running in the next provincial election as the leader of the SAS party. I guess, what are your thoughts on that? He has said he is going to run again. It'll be a rematch of your last election.
There are things I can control on this job and things that I can't. I have seen the SAS party change leaders before and still continue to make the same decisions that they've made. I've seen them shuffle their cabinet roles and continue to fail in many of those portfolios. They're going to do what they're going to do. I know what we're focused on. We're focused on doing the work. We are focused on connecting with people in this province. We are focused and committed to bringing forth those solutions. And regardless of who's leading the SAS party at that time, people are going to have a real choice. They're going to have a choice with a team that has done the work, that is focused on building that bright future for people in this province. And they'll have a choice with this SAS party government. Again, you can't fix a problem that you fail to acknowledge exists. This government thinks they're doing a great job. People of the province are going to have an opportunity to let them know if they believe that or not soon enough.
Okay, and with that, I have some fun questions for you, some Christmas questions.
Okay.
For you, what's your go-to Christmas movie?
Oh, Elf.
Elf?
Yes, and I think I laugh harder every year, and my kids are more and more embarrassed.
What about your go-to Christmas song?
Oh, I don't know if it's the go-to, but it's the one that gets stuck in my head. Mariah Carey, that now will probably be stuck in my head for the next 2 days.
Okay, and your holiday, where would you choose to go if you have a choice on where you'd go?
Oh, luckily it's the place I get to go. We're going to have Christmas here in the city, and then all of the grandkids, there's 11 grandkids on the Beck side that will all congregate out at Mom and Dad's in Lang. One of my favorite things to do is to pack everyone up and put on the proper gear and head out to Red Licks Lake and just, sometimes we take the skis or the toboggans and just hike around and be outside and enjoy each other's company. So, some people like hot weather vacations. That's okay too, but being with family and getting to enjoy each other's company is really special.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.